How do you evaluate Purdy thus far? He's leading the league in yards,
Yeah.
Yards thrown for the most yards in the league so far through 2 weeks.
Yeah.
A lot of people were really down on him in this game, but then when you go look at those numbers, I mean, I watched the game a couple times. I just, to me, Dieter, I understand that this wasn't Brock's greatest game. He held the ball too long. He was 2 for 10 on third downs. And even that's a little deceptive to be honest. He was sacked 6 times, but it was probably more like 4. A couple of those were scrambles that they were 0 negative yardage sacks that he got back to the line of scrimmage almost, but technically Van Ginkel tackled him, so it's a sack. But a lot of people were, I was watching. There's some guy, and I don't want to name him because I don't want to give him any credibility. Okay. But there was this content creator who's just screaming and yelling about, you have to be able to say he had a bad game, and it's like, okay, relax. It's like, what? I mean, the Niners lost for a lot of reasons.
Yes.
Brock Purdy was like 11th on my list of why they lost. And then I went and looked at his numbers compared to the rest of the league.
Yeah.
What I found out was that one, obviously Brock Purdy's 18-5. That's his career record. But only 3 quarterbacks in week 2 threw for 300 yards or more. It was Purdy, Geno Smith, and Jared Goff. And only 6 or 7 quarterbacks completed 75% of their passes in week 2, which is really high for any week. But 5 or 6 guys did it, and Purdy was one of them at 78% completion percentage. And then I looked at, well, who's on both lists? Who threw for 300 plus yards and completed over 75%? Just Brock Purdy and Geno Smith. The entire league. There was 2 guys in week 2 that threw for 300 or more and completed 75% or more. And it was Brock Purdy and Geno Smith. Now, Geno won, Brock lost. But this whole, he's going up against a defense that I think is one of the most difficult defenses for a quarterback to go up against. Why? Because you have to find the hot route on every snap, and then you have to they played a lot of zone, and I counted at least a half dozen plays where they rushed 3, kind of spied, and dropped everybody else. So they had 4 guys devoted to it, but they only really rushed 3, and they left the third guy kind of in the middle of the defense.
So they would do that after a 0 blitz, right? Like that's
they just did a 0 blitz, and now here comes dropping 8, and it's like then you have to go from the opposite of where's my hot route to I got to go through my progressions. I got to find the soft spot in the zone. I've got to show patience, and I've got to survey the entire field. So on one hand, if you're getting a 6-man pressure, ball's got to come out. It's got to come out now, and it's got to come out in the right place at the right time with accuracy. And then that's every other snap. And then every other snap, you've got to scan the field, read the field, find the soft spot in the zone, and make sure you don't lead any of your receivers into harm's way. I mean, I just think when you factor in who they were playing and what he actually did, if you're jumping up and down about Brock Purdy about this game, you don't know what the hell you're watching. I mean, I don't know what to say. Well, he wasn't great, but there's a big difference between he wasn't great and yelling and screaming that he ain't the guy and, he was exposed. And I mean, it's like, come on, man.
The notion
that's
that
not what happened there.
The notion that he was exposed implies that other teams can do the same thing willy-nilly. Now, I will say this. If you want to beat the San Francisco 49ers, you do what Mike McDonald did last year with the Ravens or what Brian Flores has done the 2 times the 49ers have played the Vikings. Brock has a real problem and a real hard time with the defenses that I just described, the way that you described it in detail, right? The chaos defenses is what I call it. We're putting 9 guys on the line of scrimmage.
If you have the personnel
and this
to
is
make
what I'm saying.
It work.
This is what I'm saying. You just think that you can show up one week and now you're putting 9 guys on the line of scrimmage and you're dropping 7, but you don't know which ones. Like, only so many teams can do that. Frankly, I think it's 2 of them. The Patriots, the Ravens barely do it anymore, not to the same degree under their new defensive coordinator. And Seattle is leaning into it, but they haven't gotten all the way there. One guy really does it, and it's Brian Flores. And by the way, he's got that thing humming. That was a wild.
Yes.
Did they blow a single coverage in that game? It was wildly impressive what they were doing. Because when you watch it on the all 22, you're like, there should be spots. And listen, we don't know the exact play call, but when you're watching it, you go, these guys seem pretty damn organized, and they are going out there and doing the most on every snap, guaranteed. And for a quarterback whose offensive line did not help him whatsoever, having to be in that situation where you are having to either go 100 miles per hour or 1 mile per hour based on the speed limit of the play is jarring. And it will put you in bad spots when you're a young quarterback. And frankly, probably put any quarterback in those bad spots. I'm not going to grade on the curve, though. I thought he was underwhelming in this game. I thought he made bad decisions in this game. A lot of people wanted to go in on Brandon Ayuk's separation. Not saying Brandon Ayuk had a good game either. But separation score, typically, depending on where you get it, there are some advanced numbers that are pulling the data from every single snap. But when we're talking NFL next gen and things like that, we're talking about separation average on targets. And when I watched even the first half, I had 4, if maybe 5 plays where Brandon Ayuk's wide open. It would make sense for him to be in the progression. And Brock Purdy didn't get to him because, well, his center got bowled over by Harrison Phillips, or Colton McKivitz is dying on the right side, or Trent Williams is getting his ass kicked by Van Ginkel again. And when you have an offensive line that doesn't help you, you're 6'1", you're going up against a chaos defense, so you don't really know what's happening until after the ball is snapped. Yeah, you're going to miss some wide open lanes to throw the ball. For sure. And that's what he did. And I'm not sure how much more studying he could have done to get him in a position. The offensive line had to play better. And Brock Purdy probably needed to escape the pocket more. All these things that you can say maybe he did do as the game went along. It just didn't matter because it wasn't consistently excellent enough. The execution wasn't solid enough to win the football game. And ultimately, you look at some of the numbers and you say to yourself, actually, I think he had a better game than Sam Darnold, who I almost called Andy Dalton because he's effectively the same thing these days. The fact is they were on the same plane in that game, and that's not a compliment to Brock Purdy. Maybe it's a compliment to Sam Darnold. I thought Darnold was meh, and I thought Brock Purdy was meh. Does that mean that he's not a $60 million quarterback? Does that mean that he shouldn't be the guy for the 49ers down the line? Of course not, because I also saw him in week 1 look really, really good and execute and dominate in situational football. He didn't do that in week 2. I want a full season of yay or nay on executing on, situational football, big pressure moments, and then obviously the other stuff that happens before I make an evaluation of Brock Purdy. But so far, you're right. I don't know if it's 11th, but he is down the list of reasons the 49ers are 1-1 and not feeling so hot going into this game against the Rams on Sunday. He's down the list, but he's on the list.
It's fun. I crack up when I see some of these comments. Mitchell and Ness, Larry, relax. Jesus, when you turn the ball over multiple times and everyone has coach's tape, there's always overreaction. He did have a bad game, not to say he can't bounce back. That's what I'm saying.
Back. Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad game. It's 319 yards. He completed almost 70% of his passes. He's going up. We just acknowledged that he's going up against one of the most difficult defenses to go up against. And then you take away CMC and you don't have really Ayuk at anything close to 100%. And to me, once again, people can't evaluate the quarterback versus what goes on around the quarterback. And what I saw is what's going on around the quarterback. Now I want to share the screen because my son tweeted this out, and he's totally right on. And this is a good one here. Let's see, where is it? Here it is.
We doing the over completion.
Brock Purdy leads the NFL in aggressive throw percentage,
That's
AGG percentage, 24.6. Okay, so what is AGG percentage? It tracks the percentage of passing attempts thrown into coverage where a defender is within 1 yard or less of the receiver. So among the top 8 quarterbacks in this AGG percentage, Brock has the highest quarterback rating and the highest completion percentage.
Yes.
Okay, so he's completing the highest percentage and he's throwing the ball down the field. He's also got 24.6% of his throws are within 1 yard or less, where the defenders within 1 yard or less of the receiver. That's what I see.
Yeah,
when I watched that film, that's what I saw, which is there's no separation. And Brock Purdy will throw the 50-50 ball.
Yes.
I didn't see any separation on any of the balls that he actually threw. I'm not saying that there was no separation because I went and double checked it against the all 22. And of course there was separation at times, but guess what? You can watch every team in the league and you will find separation at times all the time. There's almost no way for a receiver, for a corner to blanket the receiver up and down the field where there's never separation. The key is, when do you have separation, or when are you hugged up, and can you get away with it? You could have a situation where the defender's nowhere around the receiver, but if the rush is getting to the quarterback and the quarterback can't make the corner pay. So I just look at this and I said, what did I see? I saw Brock Purdy throw fucking dime after dime after dime after dime for the most part. But I also saw almost 90% of the times he threw, the defender was right there. And there was at least 4 or 5 throws. I can think of the Van Ginkel fourth quarter throw to Debo that went through both of Van Ginkel's hands. I can think of the
Van Ginkel throw.
What's that?
The 4th down throw near the goal line with Van Ginkel getting it.
The first throw of the game in the flat where he stared it down and kind of pump fake to it and then went to it again. That could have been a pick 6. I mean, there were several dangerous throws that Brock Purdy made, but that's who Brock Purdy is. Brock Purdy's going to take chances. Brock Purdy's going to throw the 50-50 ball. So to me, the real issue here is that the Niner receivers are not getting consistent separation. And you see it on the film. I mean, and it makes perfect sense because they're slow as molasses. This is the slowest group of receivers in the league. I mean, you show me the 40 times of every other receiving group in pro football, and I guarantee you the Niners are slower. JJ runs 4.76.
Right.
George runs 4.5s, but he's 30 years old, so that's what he ran coming out.
Anymore, yeah,
he doesn't run 4.5 anymore. Debo's doesn't separate either because of his route running or because of his speed.
I saw Antoine Griezmann lock him up.
CMC does, but he's not out there right now.
That's right.
So I'm just looking at them and I'm going, outside of Jacob Cowing, I don't see anybody who really separates.
To be fair, Ayuk was one of the finest separators in the NFL last year. He was statistically.
But this year he doesn't quite look the same, does he?
No,
he's not getting the same results.
Nor did we expect it. Now, I will say this to defend Brandon Ayuk on this point. He looked like he was at the speed of the game against Minnesota. I saw multiple times him open, and it takes 11. Ayuk got himself open and separated plenty, in my estimation. The issue was that Brock couldn't get the ball to him because Brock was about to die because somebody was coming right down his neck because the offensive line couldn't hold up. Now, that wasn't the reason that guys weren't separating against the Jets. The reason that it wasn't separating against the Jets is because they have 3 of the best corners in the NFL and that those guys lock down everybody. And if you're not running it at Sauce Gardner, you're putting the game right in his hands because he's that good at corner. I'm fascinated to see because I'm not totally dismissing the premise, but I can explain it away, at least in my own mind. I'm fascinated to see what happens now with the Rams, who can't seem to cover anybody or rush anything. And if we're still in a situation where Brock Purdy is forcing the ball into really tight windows, then we can really go in on wide receivers. Now it's a real issue because there should be wide open windows to throw the ball and plenty of time to throw it against the Rams. So far, we haven't seen it because, again, great corners with the Jets and a great scheme as well. They just couldn't get to the quarterback. And then in this past game, they're getting to the quarterback with aplomb, and ultimately Brock isn't catching the guys who are open, and they're doing a good enough job with zone coverage and mixing and matching and fire stuff that the windows just weren't clean for Brock, given the acceleration he had to play with in order to get rid of the ball. So this is ultimately the week that will determine kind of what is what. And ultimately, it might be nothing. It might have just been 2 tough matchups. We're going to find out.
Purdy passing yards through 2 weeks, 550. first in the NFL. Purdy completion percentage over expectation, 10.5%, second best in the NFL.
And that goes right along with the aggressive number, right? Like above expectation is, well, there's a guy covering you right there. Like Brock has made some absolute awesome throws. There's no question about it. He's also made some boneheaded decisions, and that's required awesome throws to get the ball to the receiver. So that's the trade-off. He has had more turnover-worthy throws this season than big-time throws, in my estimation. And I'll be the first one to say that I think Brock Purdy is a absolutely outstanding quarterback. I thought he managed week 1 exceptionally well, which is a rarity for him because usually he's a gunslinger. And in week 2, he's a gunslinger, and it backfired a little bit on him, though I'm not really sure what else he could have done against that scheme and with the protection that he had.
Average completed air yards for Purdy, 8.4, third best in the NFL. Quarterback rating, 96.3, 10th best in the NFL. The number, though, that I saw that I thought was amazing, and this was another one of Kev's stats that he tweeted out, but he said through 2 weeks, the 49er offense is averaging the lowest target separation in the NFL. The Panthers are 31st, and we know how bad they are at 3 yards. And the Niners are 32nd at 2.9 yards of target separation. Average target separation for the 49ers, 2.9 yards, 32nd in the NFL.
What do the Panthers and the 49ers have in common, though? Because I think they both actually have really good wide receivers. I think that the Panthers have a really good wide receiver core. You got Adam Thielen. You bring in Deontay Johnson. You now have Xavier Legette. I think they got dudes on that side. The problem is they both have smaller quarterbacks. Now, Brock is much sturdier than Bryce Young, but they're both diminutive by, I guess, Josh Allen, Cam Newton standards. And they both have offensive lines that are out there trying to get their diminutive quarterbacks killed. And Bryce Young doesn't have a job anymore because he isn't built for that game. Like, he's not capable of doing what he needed to do in order to get the ball to those receivers. And when he was getting the ball to the receivers, he was having to force it in there. And I think the exact same thing is happening with Brock, where he is trusting his arm, as well he should, because I guess the statistics bear out that it's worthy of that consideration. But he is trusting his arm to do the heavy lifting in this offense and really throw it into tight windows. I maintain that the larger windows are there. Brock just didn't get enough time or just missed them altogether because of the pass protection that he's received so far. Both of those teams have big time pass protection issues and quarterbacks who cannot see over the line naturally, and they don't want to leave the pocket unless they really have to. One of them doesn't have a job anymore. The other one leads the league in all these stats and is really, really good. That tells you how good Brock Purdy is, because a lesser quarterback would be out of a job by now.